Hey guys, it's Demi from Demi's Divine Designs, and today we are working on a brand new pattern from Sewfisticated Crafts called the Packing Cubes. This pattern comes with two different versions of the bags, as well as four different sizes per version. So you're getting a ton of different bags that you can make. It's awesome. We are going to be working on the second version of the pattern today, which is the collapsible travel pouch. It is really cool. It has this cool zipper detail that goes around the gusset, which kind of just smushes the top and the bottom to each other. It's going to be so much fun to make. I can't wait to do it with you guys. I have also been given permission to show you guys how to make sure you're printing out the pattern correctly, as well as prepping each pattern piece, showing you how to do that. Just a quick overview. So let's get started, get right into that, and I'll show you how to print out the pattern. All right, that's what we're going with. Of options and sizes, there are two different ways that you could print out these pattern pieces. There is this way where you are printing the pattern out on the fold, since this is not a full piece, or there is this option where you're printing out the full pieces for the main body parts. And when you are printing out those pieces, you want to make sure that you are printing it at 100% in case your computer does what mine does, where it wants to send everything to like 96%. Make sure that is at the correct scaling of 100% and print your pattern pieces as you normally would. All right, once you have your pattern pieces, you're going to have your overview showing you what all of your pieces are. Your cut list, which is very important, especially if this is your first time going through the pattern. I highly suggest you use these. And then you're going to have all of your pattern pieces. Now, before we start cutting these out, what we're going to want to do is we're going to want to check these test box. So I have my little ruler, and this first text box is showing that it's going to be an inch. Since I use inches, I'm going to use that box. If you use centimeters, use that box. So I'm going to take my ruler, measure, and make sure that my inch lines up with the black lines of the box, which it does. So you got that. We know all of these are cut out to the correct scale. Next, we're going to take craft scissors, not our fabric scissors. We are not cutting fabric. Only use fabric scissors for fabric, every other scissor for everything else. And we're going to cut out a panel. For this one, we only need the 1/2 since I cut out the ones that are on the fold. So you cut this out as you would normally, going right along the edge of that black line. And there is our extra small top panel piece, if cutting on the fold as indicated down here. Now, on this panel, it also tells you how many you have to cut of each piece. So you would have to cut one exterior, one lining for your top panel, and then one exterior and one lining for your bottom panel. All of those are going to indicate on the pattern how many you have to cut of each. Now, let's find a pattern that we actually have to construct. All right, so we have our two main medium panels, and you can tell these are panels that have to be constructed by the little diamond that is on the piece. Double check your test box if you need to, which we are good to go. And now we're going to repeat the same process that we would for the regular cutout, except for I'm going to do a little different since I don't trust my taping skills. I'm going to leave one of these longer. I'm not going to cut this section out, but I will on this one. You'll see what I mean as I cut that out. I am not the best when cutting around curves, but showing this main piece, I left this bottom section with that bit of a hanger. That just helps me align my taping. If you are all comfortable without doing that, cut that off too. I'm going to repeat the cutting process on this one, except I am going to cut this section. So, cut time. All right, and there is the second portion of the medium main panel where I did cut that section out. What you're going to do is take any clear version of tape. Usually you would use Scotch tape, but I don't have any. So I'm using packing tape. I got a lot of packing tape. You just want to make sure any tape you're using here is going to be clear so you can see through when aligning these diamonds. So you're going to take your tape. I like to do it on the side that I did cut, sorry. And take your tape, smooshy, smooshy. And now I like to go at this sideways, just since it's better for me to get a viewpoint. You do it however you need to. I'm going to start at the center and line up those two diamonds like that. And everything else just falls into place like so. So you have your two triangles. They make a diamond. That's what I mean to say. They have two triangles, and then you put them together to make a diamond. And that lines this center seam up. And then I pick this up off of my table, flip it, and smoosh. And now when doing on the fold pieces, that's the only taping you have to do. Doing the full page for the medium, you're going to have a few things to tape. You're going to have to do this center seam, then this center seam, and then connect them both. Or I believe on this one, I did these two center seams, these two, and then connected it this way. So it is just a matter of which way you prefer to work with your patterns, either as the on fold or the full page. Totally up to you. There is no right or wrong answer. So with that in mind, make sure you pick which format you want to print the pattern pieces out that works best for you. If you like working with the pattern on the fold, go with this style. If you like working with full sizes and just tracing the piece as a whole, go with this size. Once you decide which style of this pattern you prefer to work with, either with the on-fold version of the pieces or the full version of the pieces, make sure you print out and prep the pieces as I've showed you, connecting the diamonds with a clear piece of tape. Yes, for me, it's this giant roll of packing tape, which is probably not necessarily needed to be this big, but it's what I have. So make sure you prep your pattern pieces all the way through, and I highly suggest using the cut list. I do believe that this cut list is extremely important when going through this pattern, as most of the pieces are referred to by their piece number instead of their piece name. Just a thought. And now let's work into getting the pattern pieces that we have cut out, interfaced, and prepped. Once you prep out all of your pattern pieces, here's what you're going to have. Since we are doing the compression version of this pattern, it is a little different than if you were doing the regular version of the pattern. I'm going to link a video that shows you how to do the regular version of the pattern if that's something you want to check out. So for the compression, you are going to need the top portion of the pattern, which you're going to have a exterior, an interior. I'm going to do a layer of Fusible Fleece on my exterior, and I'm also going to do a layer of woven interfacing for both my exterior and my interior fabric. So there's that. We are going to have the same thing for the bottom panel. One exterior piece, one interior, 2 layers of the woven interface, and 1 of the Fusible Fleece. I just like the cushy feel that it kind of gives the exterior of the bag. Get off. For the side gussets, we're going to need 2 exterior pieces, 2 interior pieces, and 2 layers of our woven interfacing. Our grab handles, we're going to need 2 of either the exterior or interior. Just make sure you got 2 of them. And also 2 layers of woven interfacing. For your zipper tab, you're going to need 1 layer of your zipper tab fabric. I'm choosing to do the interfacing. You don't need to. It's up to you and your preferences and what material you're using. Since I'm using a cotton woven, I do want to beef it up a little bit. So we have that. And then for our zipper gussets, we're going to need one exterior, one interior, and 2 layers of our woven interfacing. Zippers, since this is the compression version, we're going to need 2 zippers. We need one main zipper that's going to open the entire pocket, and then one zipper that's going to be for your compression. These measurements are in the pattern. Make sure you get those. And this is for the medium version. And now what I'm going to do is interface all of my pieces. Since I'm using cotton woven, everything has to be interfaced. On other versions, I did just vinyl and I didn't have to interface anything. You do waterproof canvas, you don't need to interface that too. Make sure you know the interfacing for the material of fabric you are using. And for the compression, I do suggest that you use a lighter weight fabric. The vinyl doesn't like to smush down completely, so just keep that in mind when picking out your fabrics. Starting on the pattern, we're going to need our 2 main exterior pieces and our 2 grab handle pieces. Move the exterior pieces out of the way for right now. We'll need that in a minute. Take your grab handles, and what we're going to do is we are going to fold them in half, hot dog style. Make a crease. Where you have your crease, you're going to take your raw edges, fold it up to that crease. It could help putting double-sided tape along that center line, that crease that you made initially, just to help hold down these raw edges if you don't mind like using your hands. So turn around on the other edge and fold that raw edge up to that center crease that you made, like so. 2 creases. Then you're going to take your now folded edge, fold that up to your other folded edge. And then we're going to clip along that open center. So just clip down the side. Like that. And we're going to repeat that same process on the other grab handle. Find your center. Smoosh. Take your raw edge, fold up toward your center, flip it over, take your raw edge and fold in toward the center toward your other raw edge. And fold, making it look like that. Then you're going to take your now folded edge and fold that up to meet your other folded edge. This is encasing the raw edges in the center and giving your handles some more beef. So then we're going to clip down this open edge as well. And then like this. So you're going to have both of your grab handles prepped, and now we're going to take it over to the sewing machine and we're going to stitch along these edges at 1/8 of an inch seam allowance. And when doing handles, I actually like to do more than 1 stitch. So I'm going to do 1 at 1/8 of an inch, line my presser foot up with the edge of that other stitch, and do another stitch going straight down, just to give it some more oomph to grab on. You do whatever works for you. I also like to use my seam gauge. I don't have to, I just like it. All right, and then you'll have both of your grab handles prepped and ready to go. What we're going to do now is we're going to take our main pieces, our main exterior pieces, and while we're here, we're going to find the center for both the long edge and the short edge. This is going to help us throughout the pattern, and I highly recommend that you do this for all pieces. Find your centers, get them prepped, and I find my centers by folding the piece in half and making a tiny, tiny little cut into that corner. I don't go more than like 1/4 of an inch. Not even 1/4. I don't go more than like 1/8 of an inch. So we have our 2 notches there, and we're going to do the same for these short edges. Folding the piece in half and doing a tiny whiny little snip. Same on the other side. Tiny whiny little snip. So it'll look like this. You'll have a snip on the top there, snip on the side there, bottom, other side. And then you're going to repeat that with the other exterior piece. Pew. Now that we have that done on both pieces, we're going to take one main exterior and one handle. I'm going to trim up some of these threads that I have hanging up on the side. I am going to be taking the main exterior and one handle, as well as a small ruler and a marking tool. Pick a section to be your top. This is not a directional fabric. Tom and Isabel are going in multiple directions, so it doesn't matter which one's my top. I'm going to pick this one since it's already set. And from your center marking, you're going to measure on both sides 1 3/8 of an inch. So 1 3/8 of an inch from the center. You're going to set that. Take your marking tool, marky, and then on the other side, you're also going to measure 1 3/8 of an inch from the side. Murky. That's right on Tom's eye. And then you're going to have your 2 marks for where you're going to align your handle. You're going to line it on the outside of your mark. So my mark is right here. So my handle is going to the right of that mark. Clip that into place, lining that up with the top raw edge. And then take your handle, keeping it straight, loop it to the other mark, putting it on the right side. And now you're going to see it's going to get a little wonky, but it's all right. We'll be able to fix that at the sewing machine. Once you have this panel prepped, you're going to repeat the same process on your other exterior panel, where you're going to measure 1 3/8 of an inch over, mark it with your marking tool, do the other side, 1 3/8 of an inch. Haha, that was not over enough. There we go. And mark. Take your handle and line that up to the right of your mark. Clip along the raw edge, keeping your handle straight. You're going to loop-de-loop that over here. Same thing, aligning it up. Now it's going to be aligned to the left side of your mark and clipping that into place. Then we're going to take this over to the sewing machine and, well, me, it's just slide it. Slide it over your sewing machine and baste it in place with 1/8 of an inch stitch. Once that's done, you're going to want to trim up any threads, or if you're using polyester, you can melt those down too. And once that is done, your handles are attached and we can move on to the next step. For this step, you're going to need your zipper with the 2 pulls. This should be the zipper that has the shorter measurement, depending on which size you're doing. And you're also going to need your exterior zipper gusset, your interior zipper gusset, one of your main interior pieces, one of your main exterior pieces with your grab handle on. And before we get going on this part, we're going to find our center points for our lining piece, the same way we found it for the exterior. Fold it in half, do your little pinchy, take scissors, snip very, very small, not bigger than like 1/8 of an inch. Same on this side. Snip. And then same for this portion. Hot dog it and snip. Now, when you were prepping your pieces, you could have done this for all of your pieces already. I always forget until I'm actually at a part where I'm going to need it, and I'm like, oh yeah, I was supposed to find the center for that. So, do how you see fit. Do whatever works for you. And snip. So we have our centers on that. We're going to put our main pieces to the side for right now, and we are just going to work with our zipper and our zipper gusset pieces. Take your lining zipper gusset and your zipper. Lay your teeth of the zipper face down on your table, and then take your lining and also lay that face down on top of your zipper. So you should be looking at the back portion of your fabric. And what we're going to do is we're going to base this into place using 1/8 of an inch seam allowance. Once that is done, flip your zipper over so now your teeth are facing up, and then take your main exterior gusset piece, lay that face down. Now we're going to stitch that together at a 3/8 inch seam allowance. Once that's done, it's going to look like this when you pull it forward. You're going to have your exterior gusset lined up with the teeth of your zipper, and on the interior, you're going to have your interior gusset lined up with the back part of your teeth. Now, this part gets fun. So whatever works for you, I like to start with my exterior and pull that forward. So you're going to, again, have your zipper teeth. I suggest on this one, have your zipper teeth facing up on your table. Keep your zipper straight. I kind of just pull it out, pull it over, keeping your zipper nice and straight. You want to make sure you don't have any twists or turns or curves or anything. Line that up with your zipper end. And what you're going to do now is base this into place at 1/8 of an inch seam allowance. Once that's stitched, now is the fun part of getting the lining. For this, I kind of just, I don't know, like, phew. So I'll take this and I'll probably lay it with my teeth down. And then I'm going to take my lining, like when I pull it, and I'm just going to slowly drag that over, keeping this section here straight. Also showing that I don't have any twist or anything in my zipper. It's all right that I have it up here. That's going to be fixed in a second. And then we're going to stitch this on at a 3/8 of an inch seam allowance. Once that's done, it's going to look like this weird. All you have to do is just kind of pull the zippers apart, and these flatten out. And now all we have to do is top stitch along, go across the short edge, the long edge, short edge, long edge. Do that at 1/8 of an inch seam allowance, kind of just securing everything into place. All right, and once that's done, your zipper gusset should be completely enclosed. You can't get in there, it's all connected. And what we're going to do now is we are going to take one of our panels. I'm going to start with my exterior. And actually, before I do that, I'm going to find my center here. I'm going to line up my two seams for where my gusset and my zipper tape meet. And I'm going to just snip tiny, whiny little triangles in that seam allowance. It's much better if you can actually see me, isn't it? Snip. And same on the top. I'm not the biggest fan of cutting into zipper tape, but for this pattern, it is very important that you have your centers marked on everything. So I'm just going to melt this using my big lighter because I did not get a tiny one yet. And that is just because I cut into my zipper tape. If I didn't cut into it, if I used another way of marking the center, I would not have to melt it, but we're always going to do that. And then the other center, I'm going to match up the two center lines that I just cut, and we're going to cut these center lines as well. Sneep. Sneep. Same on the other side. Sneep. Sneep. Melt that as well. All right, from here, you're going to take your top main exterior panel and your zipper gusset. And now this part, I like to actually do with the zipper open. I think it's easier to maneuver that way. So open your zipper up. And I like to start with the bottom, with the gusset portion. Take your panel, have it right side up, then take your gusset, exterior right side down, aligning with those center marks that we made, and clip the gusset into place. All right, once that's done, you are going to take whichever part of the zipper is closest to you, aligning with that bottom gusset. So like for me, it's this section here. And we're going to flip this up, keeping the zipper teeth down. Align that with the center of your center mark that you have at the top. Clip there. I'll like to clip up to the handles. So I'll clip one edge, flatten this out over the handle, and then I will clip the next side as well. Then take that same zipper piece and align that with your center mark on the side. I'm just going to turn this to make it easier. Again, keeping your zipper tape, like zipper teeth, on the exterior fabric. And clip that. Like to go like 2 clips, one on each side as well, just to hold that nice and straight. Same on the other side. Keeping your zipper teeth down, making sure you're not having a twist in your zipper anywhere. And then you're going to line that center up as well, clipping that into place. Once you have that, it should look like this, where you have some clips on this top, sides, and the bottom, all along the middle. Now we just need to go through and clip along each of the curves, keeping everything straight and making sure you don't have any twist or anything in your zipper tape. All right, once that's complete, you're going to have it like this, where you are clipped all the way around. If you have issues going around those corners, getting your zipper tape to lay flat, there are a few things that you can do to help with that. You can either take double-sided tape and go right along the edge. You want to make sure it's a small double-sided tape. I would not go any bigger than a 1/4 inch for that. Since I don't have any 1/4 inch left, that's why I'm not using it. Or you can go through and cut slits into your zipper to help it spread out. Just know that anytime you do cut into your zipper tape, you need to make sure you melt that edge, because zipper tape can weave itself over time. And I've had that happen on a few bags before, so I tried not to do that unless I have no other option. Once we have this prepped, we're going to take this slide it over to my sewing machine, and we are going to stitch this on at 1/8 of an inch seam allowance, kind of just basting this into place, getting it prepped to add our lining on. Now that was fun. I did pull out my stiletto for going around the corners. Since I'm not using any double-sided tape, I wanted to make sure that my zipper didn't like come out of the way. So I used my stiletto to hold that into place. The next step, what we're going to do is we're going to take our lining piece and we are going to kind of just plop it directly over with the right sides together on everything, sandwiching this little piece and the handle in the center. So same thing that we did for the exteriors, we're going to find those center markings and we are going to line those up starting at one end. Here I'm starting on the long end. So I'm going to do this and jump over here to the other long end. Clip that into place here. Jump over to the side. This one, I'm not as particular as making sure I'm doing like so many on the straight edges since the zipper is already tacked into place. If you feel comfortable, load it up again. Flip along the edge as well. Center, center. And clip. And then I'm just going to do a couple clips around the corner just to make sure that zipper doesn't decide it wants to poke out of that edge. So I'm just going to go around pushing my zipper teeth toward the center and just sticking my clips on the edge. Like that. And I'm going to do that for each of the 4 corners. All right, and then once I have my corners clipped and my centers clipped, this is what it's going to look like. Before we sew, we do have to mark a 4-inch opening so we can turn this inside out. So you can do that one of 2 ways. You can go through and mark it with your clips, or you can do it as a drawing mark, which is what I think I'm going to do. So I am going to line my 2-inch line up with my center mark and just draw a 4-inch box. 2 inches on one side of the mark, 2 inches on the other side. And this is just so I can get my hand up in the hole and turn this right side out. Once you have that marked, we are going to stitch this from mark to mark, leaving this gap. So going around the edge, around, and then stopping here. Back stitching really good on both start and stops points. We're going to do that at a 1/4 inch seam allowance. And yeah, we're just going to do that at a 1/4 inch seam allowance. I'm going to use my seam gauge because it helps me when I go around the corners to help keep that even seam allowance. If you're good without it, all power to you. I have not gained that skill yet. Okay, when going around those curves, make sure that you are feeling for where your zipper teeth are, just to make sure that you don't get that caught in the seam allowance. I have done that on other bags, and just make sure you take your time, take it a stitch at a time, go very slow, use seam gauges if you need to, use stilettos, do whatever helps you feel comfortable going around those curves. I know curves can be pretty tough for a lot of people just getting into sewing. People who just, in general, curves can be rough. So take your time. Before we turn this right side out, we're going to take pinking shears and we're going to go around these corners. Get close to your stitching, but do not cut through your stitching. That will defeat the whole purpose of everything you just did. And we're only doing that around the curves. So I'm just taking my pinking shears and going pretty much right along the edge, getting kind of close to my stitches, but not close enough that I'm like nervously making sure I don't hit anything. Like that. Move that to the side and do that for the 4 corners. If you feel comfortable doing it for the straight edges, go ahead. I don't think it's necessary, so I'm not going to. And once you have those 4 corners cut, since I did cut into my zipper tape, I am going to take a lighter and go around the edges. Just be very careful because there's also cotton fabric here if you're using cotton fabric. And I'm just doing a quick zwoosh just to try and seal up those edges. We are going to do a top stitch over it, which will also seal it again. I just don't like to take chances with my zipper teeth because, like I said, I have had zipper tape unravel after use in places that I did cut it and didn't melt it down. Once you're comfortable with that, we now get to turn her outside right. So stick your hand in the hole and start birthing her. I like to start at like one of the far corners and push that into my hand and then use that as a guide to like ease everything else through. And since I am using just quilt cotton on this one, it is a lot easier. If you were using like a vinyl or a waterproof canvas or a clear vinyl, you'd want to be a little more, be prepared to fight that a bit more than on this one. So here, we're doing good. Make sure that zipper tape is out of the way. And I'm just gonna run my hand on the inside along the seam to help push out that zipper tape and make a nice crease. And that helps push out everything else. Perfect. Ooh, that is looking so cute. All right, now for the hole, you have 2 ways of doing this. The first way is taking double-sided tape along here, folding it under and kind of just double-siding taping along that seam. So I'm gonna do that. And then the other way is kind of, you just flip it, press it, stitch and hope for the best. Hope it doesn't move. Usually I would take that approach, but I'm doing things nicely today. So I'm just lining my tape up. I kind of see where my stitch was putting the zipper on, and I'm using that as a guide to lay my double-sided tape for the opening. Awesome. And then once you get that laid, you're going to peel your tape up and lay your lining, folding the raw edge under. And I like to just line that up with the stitches that I see, like that. So now what we are going to do is we are going to top stitch along this seam. This honestly is one of my favorite parts of the pattern. This is, to me, one of the easiest parts, just phew. And we're going to do that at 1/8 of an inch seam allowance. All right, and beautiful. That is done. I love doing that top stitching. The corners, I am so particular on making sure that they look a specific way that I will go like 2 stitches into the corner, lift up my presser foot, slightly turn the piece, do another 2 stitches, pick up my presser foot, slightly turn, just to get like a nice rounded top stitch. It looks so pretty. And you want to make sure that you caught everything on the back, which we did. So that is set. Double check and make sure your zipper closes, which we should have no problems with that. Our stitching on this looks so good. All right, and that is perfect. And now we are done with the top flap. Now we get to move on to the next step. Now we're on to what makes this bag so unique and so cool. This is the compression portion of this pattern. What we're gonna need is our zipper tab our compression zipper tape with a single zipper pull on it, and we were going to need our 4 gusset pieces, our 2 lining pieces, and our 2 exterior pieces. To get started, take your zipper tape, your zipper tab, not tape, and we're going to measure 3/8 of an inch on both long edges and 1 short edge. So go ahead and mark that out. And then when you're done, it's kind of going to look like that, where you have like kind of a nice little pie looking thing, like the mathematical version of pie. I'm sorry. Then you're going to take double-sided tape and run it along the 2 long edges. The smaller the tape, the better. I currently don't have anything smaller than 1/4 inch, so just line that up along your edge on both of the long edges, not the short edge. Like so. And what we're going to do is we're going to fold our fabric over that 3/8 of an inch measurement. This is hiding the raw edges for when we put the tab together, since this tab isn't getting sewn into 3 seams. It's only getting sewn into 1, which I thought was really cool. So just fold that over. Same on the other side. Fight with the double-sided tape. Okay, perfect. And fold. And before we move on to the next step, double check and make sure that your zipper tab is now the exact same size as your zipper tape width, which mine is slightly smaller. So I'm going to open up one of these and just unfold it a little bit, if I can. And I mean, like, I'm just unfolding this a tiny, whiny bit. And double check. There we go. Now she's perfect. And now what we're going to do is we are going to baste this into place. If you have your zipper that's like open like mine, you're going to want to do it on the closed end of your zipper. Yes, the closed end of your zipper. So when you pull the zipper tape towards that end, it opens. When you pull the zipper tape away from that end, it closes. So like that. Lay your zipper teeth right side up and take your zipper tab and lay it right side down. Lining up the short raw edges, you're going to want to sew at a 3/8 of an inch seam allowance, pretty much where we just drew our line. Then what you're going to do is, once that's complete, you're going to take your zipper tab, flip it, and kind of have the tab stick out a bit long. You want to have it where you can take that raw edge and fold it under 3/8 of an inch. So take your 3/8 of an inch, fold that down, and you're going to line the 2 edges up together. You want to line the 2 edges up so you kind of have like that there, and the stitches are covered on that back end. And what you're going to want to do is, you can clip this into place if you would like, which I think I'm going to, because I don't want to mess up Isabella's pretty little symmetrical face. That's so cute how her little face is right there. That wasn't even intentional. Okay, anywho, we are going to top stitch along the 3 edges, going down, over, across the zipper, and then down again at a 1/8 of an inch seam allowance, kind of securing everything together and hiding those stitches on the back. And once that's done, you can clip up any stitches that are hanging out. I know I had a scissor somewhere. Clip up those stitches. I'm also going to melt that down since I'm using a polyester thread. If I was using cotton, no fire, no melty. But since it's polyester, yeah. And then you have your zipper tab. Next, you're going to want to measure to ensure that your zipper and your zipper tab measure out to the right place. When looking at the pattern, there's going to be a table up at the top that tells you what size your zipper tape is supposed to measure with the tab according to your size. I'm doing the medium, so I'm going to measure according to what the pattern says the medium size is. And this can be fun to measure, so give yourself some credit, especially if you have your one side that's open like me. Yeah, we're actually slightly bigger by like half an inch. So I'm going to trim that off. Since I was about a 1/4 inch bigger, I'm just gonna cut that off of my end, taking my my ruler and finding that measurement and cutting. And then since I just cut the zipper tape, we're gonna melt it so it does not unravel after, like during use. Once we have that cut, take one of your exterior main gussets and we're gonna find the center for this like we've been finding the center for all of the pieces. Fold it in half like a hot dog. Snip with the hot dog, go to the other side, fold that hot dog style, snip, then take it and fold it in half like a hamburger. This is one really long droopy hamburger, but it's still hamburger. And snip. Like so. Once you have your centers marked, you're going to take your zipper tape and your zipper tab and you're going to line your tab up with the center notch that you just made. If you need to like manhandle your zipper, go for it. It'll be fine. And then you're going to clip your tab into place. Pew. Then we're going to go over to the sewing machine and we're going to stitch the zipper tab onto the gusset at 1/8 of an inch seam allowance. I would secure this really good. Do a lot of back stitches. Once that's done, what we're going to do is we're going to head over to our zipper tape, the side that's open. You could have done this before stitching this on. Doesn't matter, doesn't really make a difference. You are going to measure 2 inches from the edge and mark that spot. So I like to just line my ruler. I like to push it up to my zipper teeth and mark that way. So I got a 2-inch mark on that one. Take this side, push my ruler up to my zipper teeth, line that up with the 2-inch mark on my ruler, and mark that way. What that is marking is where we are going to bend our zipper tape. So what you're going to do is take one edge, take that mark and kind of pinch and pull that pinch toward the zipper teeth. So it's going to create a kind of like 90-degree fold. That is what we want. It's going to look like this. Just get that all nice and puckered in there and clip that into place. And then you're going to do the same on the other side. Take your mark, pinch, bring it up towards you, and bend your zipper teeth tape down, creating like a 90-degree angle like that on your zipper tape, and clip that into place as well. Come here, clip. Now, what we can do to hold this into place, you can either melt it into place. I've seen some YouTubers do that. I have never been able to actually make that work. So I'm just gonna stitch that into place, and I'm just gonna do a stitch right along that fold. Nothing too crazy, just enough to hold it into place. And I'm going to use my stiletto to help me hold that into place while I'm stitching. To stitch that into place, all I'm doing is taking my presser foot, riding it right along the edge of the zipper tape, and just going back and forth on like 4 stitches, really securing that so that is not going to come undone. And I did that on both sizes. This section is also where you can put your sew-in tag if you have one. If you have one of the ones that like fold over, you're going to want to put that on the opposite side of the zipper tab like you have it. I have one of the leather, like faux leather ones that go on, that like sew onto place. For this one, I'm really thinking that the long skinny tag looks the best. I think that's the way to go. I did a long skinny one on my other one too, and I do think that looks better than the square tag. You do whatever tag you have. It's what it is. I like to center my tag, and I'm gonna measure up an inch. Yeah, we'll go an inch. And I'm just gonna lay this on, centering it the best I can. If you have double-sided tape, double-side tape that on there. And I'm gonna stitch this into place, just going around the edge at like 1/8 of an inch seam allowance. Once that is prepped, it's going to be on there all nicey nice. What we're going to do is we're going to take our next exterior main gusset piece, lay that right sides together on our current exterior gusset piece, with the zipper kind of sandwiched in between. And we're going to sew along these short edges at a 3/8 of an inch seam allowance. You can clip this if you would like. Since I don't have far to go, I'm not going to worry about it. And we're going to repeat that process on the other short end as well. Once we have that done, we'll have both short edges stitched together. We're going to flip this right side out in order to top stitch. For top stitching, it is recommended that you alternate which sides the seams are going to from the lining, which we haven't gotten to yet. So I'm going to have both of my seams go towards the left, and I'm going to top stitch right along here, going at 1/8 of an inch from the ditch. And when top stitching, it probably is best to have your exterior seams be stitched towards the left, since what that's going to do is that going to straighten out your tab to kind of make it lay flat, as opposed to if you did it on the right, it's going to have the tape go the wrong way. So I would suggest having your top stitching pushing your seams to the left for this part. For this part, we're going to lay our exterior gusset down, and we are going to make some markings on the top and the bottom. This is what is essentially going to create the compressed portion of the bag. So take your ruler and lay it down according to the measurement that is in the pattern for the bottom portion. The bottom and the top have different measurements, so make sure you're looking at the correct spot that you're marking. Since I'm marking the bottom, I'm going to measure that according to the pattern. And this is the same regardless of what size you are doing for your bag. If it's the small, the medium, the large, the extra small, it is the same measurement here. And then move on to the top portion, measuring out as it states in the pattern, doing your mark. And just a reminder, your top and your bottom measurements are different. They are not the same. Keep that in mind when marking. Then you're going to open up your zipper all the way. All the way. Once your zipper tape is fully opened, you're going to take one side of your zipper tape and you're going to pull it up towards that mark, lining your zipper tape end with the mark that you just made. And then you're going to clip that into place. Like so. Like that. And repeat that on the bottom, taking the zipper tape down and lining it up with that mark that you just made. Once that's done, you're going to take one side of your zipper tape and you are going to continue clipping that, going all the way around that edge of your gusset. So for me, since I'm going to start with the top, we're going to just clip this buddy all the way around. Okay, once you get back to the edge, you should have a slight overlap from your zipper tape that you already have clipped and your fold. Clip a little close to that, but don't clip it all the way down yet, since when we stitch that, we have to start with it not being on the overlap. And then you're going to repeat that process for the bottom as well, clipping the zipper into place, going all the way around the edge, not fully clipping the final piece of the zipper tape until we are stitching. Once you have that all clipped, if you want to make sure you remember which side is your top and which one is your bottom, I would suggest doing a mark on the top. I'm just kind of going to draw a little just on the zipper tape so I know that side is the top. I don't think it makes that big of a difference if you mess it up during construction, but if you're particular and want to make sure that you have the top on the top, bottom on the bottom, that's a good way to do it, especially if you're not using directional fabric. And so what we're going to do now is we are going to stitch this into place using 1/8 of an inch seam allowance. We're kind of just basting this on. And when we start, I suggest starting with your gusset down, starting with your zipper here, lifting this extra portion out of the way and starting right behind where the zipper tape lines up with your raw edge, just to keep everything in line. That's a great way to start. Start with your presser foot slightly behind the zipper tape where it lines up and sew straight along here. And then when we make our way back, like make our way full circle, we're just going to lay this down, and it's okay if the zipper teeth sticks up a little bit as you stitch across here, back stitching really good over this zipper teeth end. And then you're going to do the same on the other side, starting at the front where your zipper tape begins, lifting that overlap piece out of the way and lining your presser foot up with that edge. If you need to, use a stiletto to help you hold this in place. Okay, once that's done, give your zipper a test and make sure that it's going to close down as we want it to, which is going to cause the exterior to like pucker inwards. Make sure that your zipper works all the way through. For this, the lighter the fabric, the better. I bet if you didn't interface this section, this would fold down on really nice, but I like that little structure. And yes, it's awesome. When it closes, kind of like creates this like loop-de-loop ring. So that's perfect. That's doing exactly what we need. Now, the next thing we are going to do is we are going to take our interior pieces and we are going to connect them together. So grab your two interior pieces, lay your interior pieces right size together, and we're going to sew the short edges together at a 5/8 of an inch seam allowance. Same on the other side, 5/8 of an inch along the edge. And then we're going to flip this right side out. And when we lay this on the interior, we are going to want the seams to nest. So you're also going to want to stitch your seams with them going to the left. So when you lay them back to back, it'll be one's going one way, one will go the other. That'll make more sense when I put it on there. And we're going to top stitch this down at 1/8 of an inch seam allowance with the seams going to the left. Same on the other side. And we are all set with the construction of pieces. Now what we're going to do is move on to final assembly. For final assembly, you're going to want all of your constructed pieces. The gusset lining piece, the gusset exterior piece, the top piece with the zipper, and the top piece and the lining that we have not really worked with. We're going to put the one we haven't worked with over to the side. Move that out of the way, and we're also going to take the lining gusset and move that out of the way for now as well. So all we're working with at this moment is the top piece with the zipper and the gusset piece exterior. What you're going to do is you're going to find your center markings for your gusset piece. To do that, you already have your side centers marked with your seam from attaching the two. To find the other center, you're going to line up your 2 stitches, your 2 seams, line those up, and give that a nice tuck. Same thing that we've been doing, take a little notch, snip. Same on the other end, make sure that didn't like slide or anything. Move that. And give that a nice, only if you need to. Yeah, okay, perfect. And then since we did cut into our zipper, we're going to melt those cuts so our tape doesn't unravel over time. And now we're going to take our main exterior piece with a zipper, lay that right side up, take your gusset, making sure that it is inside out, taking your center. I like to do the center that has my logo closest to it. Lay that right side down, pulling this handle out of the way. Make sure that's like bent back. And align those center markings like that and clip that into place. And then I like to go boop, boop, boop. So now that I did this center, I'm going to move over to the other side and I'm going to line up that center, aligning that with my notch on my zipper gusset. Keep. Then I'm going to go over here, take that seam and line that up with my center notch that I have here. Clip that into place and do the same on the other side. Find my center line and clip that into place. And now we're going to go around and just clip along the edges. If it'll help, you can trim off this extra zipper tape at this point. It's only going to get in your way. And make sure anytime you cut the zipper, you melt your edge. Just be careful because we do have cotton fabric here and we do not want a house fire. And then just go through and clip around the edges. If you need to, it may be beneficial for you to open up the zipper to help make that zipper tape a little more pliable for going around those curves. So I'm going to do that really quick. And then if you do that where you have that open, you're only going to work with the one portion of the zipper. Okay, beautiful. Once that is all clipped, it should look kind of like this, where you have all that there, the flap is there. I know the first time when I was clipping this together, it felt very unnatural for me, clipping zipper tape to zipper tape, but it works out so nicely. It's beautiful. This pattern comes together so cute. Anyway, moving on. we now have to stitch this into place. We're going to baste it. So we're only going to stitch this at 1/8 of an inch seam allowance. I'm just going to ride my presser foot right along the raw edges of both the zipper tape and the gusset zipper tape. I like to stitch this with the flap down and the gusset like that, just because it's easier for me to like bend stuff out of my way than move that whole thing out of my way. All right, and once that is done, it should work perfectly fine. Double check your stitches to make sure that you can close your zipper. If you need to, check both of them. Once I find where it started, I found it. And yep, she is working good, and that is looking amazing. So from here, we're going to attach the gusset lining onto where we just sewed. You've checked to make sure that your zippers both work correctly after your stitching. What we're going to do is we're going to take our interior gusset, flip it right side, wrong side out, and we are going to line this up with our exterior gusset. So you are again going to want to find your center the same way that we found it on the exterior. Line up your middle seams from where you attach the two gusset panels and cut little notches in the top and bottom corners on each of the sides. Same on the other side. Measure that and cut. Then you're going to take your exterior gusset, make sure it is right side out, flipped correctly. So kind of like this, have it where that's over here, this is here. And then you're going to take your lining and slide this matching right sides up together, aligning your center pieces and your seams. So my seam is over here. Come here. Get over here. Lining my seams, and when lining it, you will see that because we had both seams stitched toward the left, it is actually going to make the seams nest together because the one is going to the right, one is going to the left when you put them right sides together. And just clip, line up the first edge, flip over to the second edge, make sure your zipper tape is going the right way. Might be easier if that guy gets flipped in here. There we go. And find your seam, and then your center markings on the side as well. On both long edges, like this. And then clip around the entire gusset raw edges, lining everything up. Keeping the zipper sandwich in between with the zipper teeth going down. All right, and once you have that clipped, it should look like this. So we have the clips going all around the edge. Have your top panel kind of flap down like so. And what we're going to do is we're going to stitch along this clipped edge at 1/4 inch seam allowance. Once that's done, you're going to want to flip the gussets wrong sides together and check to make sure that your stitches are how you like them. I think I have one spot that might not be too good. I'm going to feel around for it. No, we look good. Okay, perfect. So what you're going to do is you're going to fold your gusset down, line that up, and I'm just going to clip along this edge just to hold this in place for right now. All right, and once you have that clipped, What that does is that creates a nice crisp seam down here if you choose to top stitch. I think I am going to top stitch. So let's top stitch this. To top stitch this section, you have to be a little cautious about your starting and stopping point due to us having like this whoop-de-whoop here. So what I like to do is I like to pull the zipper and kind of just pull it away from the edge, allowing me to get my presser foot closer to that seam. So I'm gonna lift, get it under. Come in, under all the zippers. So lift the zipper and pull it out of the way in order to line your presser foot up with your ditch. So you can stitch this at 1/8 of an inch seam allowance going around. And when we come back, we'll be able to push the zipper down out of the way so we can line it up with our initial starting stitches. All right, now that I'm getting back to the bottom, I'm going to pull my zipper tape down towards me, showing me those initial starting stitches so I don't stitch the zipper tape. And there we go. So when I was top stitching, I pulled both of my zippers up out of the way, allowing me to get right to that ditch going all the way around. Now, before we move on, just double check that all of your zippers work and nothing got messed up during the top stitch phase or attaching the gusset, which that looks good. Oh, look at how pretty that's looking. Okay. That's kind of giving me my second wind to continue because it is late, y'all. And they work perfectly. So now we get to move on to attaching the bottom. For attaching the bottom, we can go through and quickly baste this into place at 1/8 of an inch seam allowance, and it might be easier to do that if this zipper was not closed. So make sure that's open. Yes. And now we're just gonna base stitch this into place at 1/8 of an inch seam allowance, closing up the gusset portion. Once that is all stitched, we are going to take our exterior bottom panel and we are going to line that right sides together up with our gusset piece. Lay your exterior bottom piece with the handle going to the left and take your gusset piece, flip it with the interior out, and on the section that connects to your top flap, you're going to want to lay that right sides together on your bottom piece. So find your center marks on both, clip that into place, then take your other side and clip that right sides together by the handle, then take your corners, put those right sides together, and same on the other side, right sides together. Once you have all of the center marks clipped, go around and clip the remaining portions, lining up the raw edges. Once that's done, it should look like this, where you have your clipped edges going all the way through the bottom. Here you have your top panel, and when you lay your top panel down, you should have your handle towards the top, not near where this panel connects. We are going to sew along the clipped edge at 1/4 of an inch seam allowance. Beautiful, and there is that stitch connecting the top to the gusset. Make sure that you take your time going around these curves if you need to 2 stitches, lift up your presser foot, turn the fabric, flatten the fabric out. Do another 2 stitches, pick up your presser foot, turn the fabric, lay it out. Doesn't matter how slow you go to get these curves, take your time, go at a pace that you are comfortable with. Now we have to connect the lining. And we are going to do that by kind of making this become a pillow, is what I was calling it when I was testing this out with my husband this week. So fold your fabric down and kind of fight with your top piece. Take your exterior bottom piece. Now we have not touched this at all making this bag, so make sure you go through and mark your centers. This is extremely important throughout this entire pattern. You want to make sure that you are lining everything up as best you can, and these center marks make it so much easier to do. So make sure you're marking those. Fold in half, do a tiny notch, fold in half the other way, and notch that as well. And there we go. Our centers are all marked. We're going to lay this right side together with the exterior gusset. So we have this all like smooshed down. We're going to take our interior, lay that right side down, and align those center markings. Starting with one edge, boop yourself to the other side, centering that mark, boop over to another side, align that center, clip, other side, and align that center. And now this section does get pretty tight because we're trying to smush all of this down. The thicker the fabric you use for this part, the harder this part is going to be. So just keep that in mind when picking your fabrics and your interfacing. You don't want this to be too stiff where this can't like smoosh together. So now we're going to go through and clip around the rest of these edges. Once I have this clipped, I like to mainly focus on these corners, since the straight edges are easier for me to manipulate with when working at the machine. The final thing that we have to do before we can start stitching this up is we have to mark a 4-inch gap, which I'm going to do the same thing I did for when we did the top zipper panel. I'm going to mark the gap, lining up my 2-inch mark on my ruler on a center portion. I like to do this on a straight edge. I do not feel confident doing it on a curved edge, so I suggest straight. And I have this marked the same way that I marked it on the other side, having my 2 marks. We're going to start at one mark, go all the way around, stop at another mark, back stitch heavily on these 2 marks, since we are going to be turning this entire bag out of this hole. That's a lot that's coming out of there, so make sure you don't tear anything. And we're going to be stitching this up at a 1/4 inch seam allowance. All right, now that that is done, I'm going to take my pinking shears and I'm going to go around these corners, just thinning this seam out and making the fabric easier to poke out around these corners. I'm getting close to my edge, but not stitching through it. Not cutting through it, I'm sorry. Same on this side. And since I don't have zipper tape on this one, I don't have to worry about melting anything down afterwards, because there's nothing that will unravel over time. Once you have those corners trimmed, we are good to turn this out. Just be very careful turning it out that you do not rip any of your stitches. All right, once you get that turned out, double check and make sure that your stitches are how you like them and that you caught everything and just that everything looks how you want it to do before we do our final top stitching. I think we are good to go. So now we're going to take our double-sided tape and we're going to do the same that we did for the top section. I'm actually going to turn this right side out to do this. I think it'll make this next step easier. Smoosh, smoosh, yes. Take your double-sided tape and do the same thing that we did along the other side, where we're going to line the tape on that hole that we created. Just along that edge. Do have to stick that under slightly. Peel off the tape, the paper part, and fold that opening down, covering those stitches. Make sure it's the same seam allowance. Now, I don't know if this happens to anybody else, but every time I do this, my fabric gets like kind of stretched out and I get a tiny little bit of a pucker. Don't know if that's just me. It might be. So it's going to look like that, where you can't see that hole anymore. And what we're going to do is we are going to top stitch along this seam. I'm going to flip this right side inside out in order to do that. Right. Yeah. And I'm going to pull with the seam going toward the bottom panel. And I'm just going to ride my presser foot along this seam here, stitching everything down into place. And when top stitching, make sure you're pulling the handle towards like the inside of your machine away from the bottom panel. Once that top stitch is finished, you are done with your bag. Go through and just double check and make sure everything works. Oh, this looks so cute. Halfway. Halfway. Oh, that's beautiful. You can go through and give this a nice press from us turning it right side out. That looks so good. Let me check the compression. Oh my God, that is beautiful. All right, now we're gonna go on to the review. All right, so this was a beautiful pattern. It was so great to work with. I love the compression part of this bag. It is perfect for travel. Sewing it was really simple. I was honestly a little intimidated by the thought of doing a collapsible bag, but you got it. It's easy, you can do it. It is such a quick make. Just make sure when you go through that you make sure that you are marking your centers and you are lining everything up as best you can. That is the best way to ensure these corners are perfect. I love this pattern, and with this pattern you do have the 4 different sizes, but 2 styles per size. So essentially, you're getting a pattern to make 8 different bags. And I did go through and make all the sizes. So here is the extra small. I made this one in cotton lycra with all fusible fleece interfacing. I didn't use any woven interfacing. I just wanted to see how that would go. It went very good. The cotton lycra smushes down so nicely in the compression version that I highly, highly suggest if you were to make the collapsible version of this pattern, use either a cotton lycra or a basic cotton. I think that works the best. I do suggest you make sure you use the woven interfacing. Don't try to skip that like I did. It caused me a few issues with the fabric distorting while I was sewing it, so just something to keep in mind. Here is the small that I made in all vinyl with a waterproof canvas lining. And this one is not the collapsible version. It is beautiful. It is a definitely significant size difference between the small, the extra small, and the regular small. So like when you put those in front of each other, it is a significant size difference. But it was a lot of fun doing this style in a vinyl or a clear vinyl or a waterproof canvas. Anything with more structure, I think helps make this go a lot faster and helps provide the bag a lot more rigid structure. So we have the extra small, the small. We just did the medium together. Look at the big size difference. So when you stack those, you see this one isn't as drastic as a difference as this guy is, but it is still a difference. And then we have the large size. And I did this one with a clear vinyl for the 2 main panels and vinyl sides with a cotton interior. Let me unzip and show you. So it looks like that. And oh my gosh, this version was so quick to make. So quick. And I think this looks beautiful. But let me tell you, for somebody who doesn't like binding, me, I love picking patterns that use binding. Yay. So here's what this one looks like. And you can see the size difference between the medium that we made today and the large. It is another big jump. And you are getting such great quality with this pattern. You're getting essentially 8 different bag styles that you can make. And each style is phenomenal. Each style is so unique and it's so cool. It comes together so beautifully. I highly recommend everyone try this pattern, get this pattern. Do not be intimidated by the collapsible version. It is not difficult. How the pattern explains it out, how it walks you through it, does a phenomenal job to make you feel comfortable tackling it. So I highly suggest that you guys try this pattern. It is so fun, and I am so privileged to get to be able to make a video for it. It is so cool. I'm going to have linked in the description a video to a pattern showing you how to do the regular version of the bag, which I highly suggest that you check out as well. If you guys have any questions with this pattern or any other patterns you would like to see in the future, please let me know. I would love to see what you guys suggest, what you guys think. If you try the pattern, let me know because it is phenomenal. Sewfisticated Crafts does a fantastic job putting this together. Her descriptions, her way of explaining how to walk you through each step is beautifully done and does really give you like that walking hand. And I love how she has like her tips and stuff in the pattern as well. Thank you guys so much for checking this out. As always, I really appreciate it. Thank you guys for watching. If you could hit the subscribe, the like, leave me a comment. I love talking with you guys. I love seeing what you guys think of the videos. And speaking of what you guys think of the videos, I'm trying a new angle. I'm still trying to get the feel as to what angle works best for what you guys are looking for with these sewing tutorials. So please let me know what you guys think. And I think I finally got the lighting figured out so I don't look like a pumpkin. Well, thank you guys so much, and I can't wait to see you next time. Have a good day. Bye!